Boundaries is a popular conversation in today's world. Ever wondered how to set personal boundaries? I'm going to share my secrets for boundary success in this video. My name is Tiffany Toombs. I'm a high-performance mindset coach that has worked with thousands of people across the world to help them reprogram their mind and step into more self-loving activities like setting boundaries. Now, growing up, I thought boundaries were incredibly selfish. I've since learned that they are one of the most self-loving things that we can do. That doesn't make them easy to set, though. I fully appreciate how challenging this can be, especially if you've never set one. So in this video, I'm going to share with you my 4 steps for boundary setting success so that you can set boundaries with anyone at any time. So step number 1 in being able to set effective boundaries is that we actually have to know where the line is for us. We have to know what behaviors we are no longer willing to accept, and we have to understand what our needs are. For many people who've been people pleasers, martyrs, rescuers, or doormats for people for a long time, you might not know the answer to this question. When I first started setting boundaries, I definitely didn't. So spend some time getting to know you again. Spend time alone. Spend time in nature. Start listening to your body. Start reflecting on the things that people have said or done that have made you feel uncomfortable, resentful, bitter, angry, any of those negative emotions in your body, because this is a sign that a boundary was crossed even if you didn't know it was there. In terms of your needs, ask yourself how you want specific people in your life to show up for you and to support you. You might even benefit from discovering your love language, and if you just go to Google and type in the 5 love languages, you'll be able to take a short test to discover what your top 2 love languages are. Step number 1 might take a little bit of time, but it's going to set the foundations that are going to allow you to have success with all the other steps in this process. Now, before I share with you the next step, I would love to hear from you. Have you set boundaries before? And if so, what challenges did you face in doing so? Go to the comments below and let me know. Step number 2 in setting boundaries is to identify what is the consequence that will happen for the people who respect your boundaries, and what are the consequences for those people who don't? Now, I know that the term consequence has some negative connotations, but everything has a consequence. It's just whether that consequence is good or bad, or what we want or what we don't want. So for the people who respect your boundaries, they get to stay in your life. They get more of your time, more of your energy. And for the people who don't respect your boundaries, you may have to consider consequences like removing them from your life altogether. Now, I had one client that I worked on this with, and she told her kids that they had to start cleaning their rooms, but she didn't tell them what the consequence of them not cleaning their rooms were. So guess what? They didn't clean their rooms. People need to know what they're going to lose or miss out on if they don't prescribe to your boundaries. Now, I want you to know that your boundaries are not meant to push everybody away. This is not about keeping people out of your life. Rather, your boundaries are the admission that people pay to be in your life. Boundaries allow you to show up as the best version of you within the relationships that you keep, because there's mutual respect there. So what is the consequence to people not following your boundaries or not respecting your boundaries? Now, just keep in mind that pain is often our greatest catalyst for change. And so sometimes we might have to pick a consequence that is particularly painful to the person, like losing us from their life completely, in order to get them to respect our boundaries. Now, before I share with you the next step, I want to remind you to subscribe to my channel. I am putting out brand new content every single week that is going to help you reprogram your mind to let go of old self-sabotaging behaviors like people pleasing and rescuing, so that you can achieve more of what you truly want in life. Now, step number 3 is that we actually have to communicate this boundary. And this is where a lot of people freeze up because they feel like after having not set boundaries for so long that they have to be incredibly aggressive or incredibly stern about setting their boundaries, which often leads to confrontation. And then that often leads to people saying, oh, scratch that. Never mind what I said, my boundary's not really there, and rescinding their boundary and going back to the old behavior. Instead of doing that, I want to share with you 3 incredibly powerful language patterns or phrases that are going to allow you to stand in your power, set effective boundaries without any confrontation or without any need for that argument or feeling bad about setting the boundary. So the first is I appreciate and. I'm going to give you 2 examples of using this. One, somebody asking for you to do something and you setting a boundary around your time because you're not able to help that person. And the second is around somebody questioning your boundaries or why they need to respect that specific boundary. So in the first example, I appreciate that you reached out to ask me for help today and my plate is already full. I'm not able to help you. In the second example, I appreciate that you don't understand my goals and dreams or that you don't understand my boundaries, and that's okay. You don't need to understand them to respect me enough to respect the boundary. Language pattern number 2 is I respect and. I respect you so much for reaching out and asking me for help today. Unfortunately, I respect that you have boundaries and I respect what those boundaries are. And all I'm asking from you is that you respect my boundaries in return, even if you don't understand or agree with them. Language pattern number 3 is I agree and. I agree that it's important to ask for help when you're feeling overwhelmed. And today I'm not somebody that can help you without going into overwhelm myself. I agree that you don't necessarily understand why I have the goals and dreams or boundaries that I do, and I'm still asking that you respect me because you want to be a part of my life. When you use these 3 language patterns, it becomes so much easier to communicate what you need and what you want from people without feeling like you've been overly aggressive or without feeling like you're rejecting the other person. Now, step number 4 may be one of the toughest steps, and it's the most important. You have to be willing to follow through on the consequence if people are not willing to respect your boundary. Now, if you've never set a boundary before, if you've never asked for your needs to be met, there may be a little bit of a learning phase and a growth curve for people to start changing their behavior. This doesn't mean that in the learning curve you just let whatever behavior slide. You point out to them, hey, this was not appropriate, this was not respectful, I'm not okay with this, please don't do it again. Then you have to decide how long you're going to give that person to learn to respect this boundary or how many chances you're going to give them. But ultimately, you have to pull them up on their behavior and be willing to follow through on the consequence. The client that I told you about earlier, the first time her kids didn't clean their room, she still gave them their allowance money anyways. Their behavior didn't change, as I'm sure you can imagine. When she stopped giving them their allowance when they didn't clean their room, which was the consequence to that boundary, their behavior changed very quickly. Now, just because you have to remove somebody from your life initially for disrespecting your boundaries doesn't mean that's going to be forever. Sometimes they just need to make the adjustment and then you can allow them to come back into your life. That is something that you have to work out and see what feels good for you personally. Now, if you're someone who wants to truly master your mind and become better at communicating what it is that you need and want from a place of empowerment instead of self-sabotage, I would love for you to join me in the 6-day Mind Mastery Challenge. Over this challenge, I'm going to show you how to overcome fear, self-doubt, imposter syndrome, and overwhelm so that you can step into your power and achieve more of what you want. The best part, it's absolutely free. All you have to do to get instant access is go to nlpworksheet.com or click on the link in the description. I'll see you in there, and thank you so much for watching. Now, if you're someone, I'm choking on my spit over here.